So Taylor Slocum is a career services counselor at Columbus State Community College. We saw her give this presentation at the ATE Principal Investigators Conference earlier this fall. I thought that you would enjoy hearing from her about how they engage employers and boost employability skills among their students. And yes, we are recording this. So once it's all packaged and ready to go, we will share with you the YouTube link as well.
I'm just going to dive on in and dive into the topic of gameful mentorship and just how we've been at Columbus State creating engaging student-employer connections. As far as what we will cover today, it will be, brief intro of myself, talking a little bit more about gamification, as well as the goals and benefits of that, including that in your relationships with employers and your students, as well as just giving kind of a basic overview of some of the activities that we have found successful in partnering with our employers for our IT apprenticeship program. And I do want to leave a little bit of time at the end just to offer opportunity for questions, talk through ideas, anything along those lines. Feel free to include any questions you might have in the chat. I'll try and answer them as we go, and then I'll reserve some time at the end as well for anything more in depth that you'd have. And then just a brief introduction of myself. So my name is Taylor Slocum. I'm a career counselor at Columbus State Community College. I've been with the college about 5 years now. Absolutely love it. I think Columbus State is actually the sister college to Collin College. So if you ever are in Columbus, Ohio, come see us. I've been working in higher education about 8 years now, with Columbus State for about 5. As far as my credentials, I'm a licensed professional counselor, certified professional resume writer, and a NACE career coach intensive trainer as well. So as Mark mentioned, I presented on this topic for the most recent NSF conference earlier this autumn. And I've also presented about mentorship programming, how to create a career specific mentorship program back in 2019 when there was in-person events. So that was at the National Mentorship Symposium in Indiana, which was a really cool experience. And I coordinate our career mentorship program through our department in career services. And yeah, so I'm always happy to collaborate, always happy to connect. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you have more questions for today or have more questions about creating career mentorship programming. Let me know. I'm happy to collaborate. I've met a lot of cool people, and I'm happy to network with you a little bit more as well. So again, so appreciative of your time today, and that you're enjoying lunch with learning about mentorship. So I appreciate your time. So before I kind of dive into gameful mentorship, I do like to add a little bit of background about what we kind of base our programming on here at the college. So through career services, we do a lot of program development to incorporate career readiness for our students. So what we do to create that programming is we base a lot of it off of the NACE career competencies. So NACE is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And what they did is they actually polled employers to see the top skills that they look for from recent graduates. And from this research, they created these 8 career competencies. So in looking at this list, you can see that these competencies are transferable across all industries. So not necessarily just IT or healthcare, it can be humanities, anything. And I know, from a professional standpoint, definitely from faculty standpoint, we can all agree that our students have a lot of this skill development in the curriculum already, and there's always room to grow. I know working in career services, a lot of the times our students tend to want to run from our department. They don't necessarily want to see us until they're ready to graduate and want to talk about resumes. So something that we've been trying to do with our department is really try to partner with different departments, partner with different classrooms, different faculty, to really try and implement these career competencies a little bit early on in their experience. These career competencies are things that students need to be working on and developing, and realizing that these are things that employers are wanting and needing. And it's not just, hey, I have my diploma, I'm someone that you can hire, I have what you need. There's all these other pieces that go into that, marketability once you're ready to graduate. So I also like to showcase this figure as well. So this was research also done by NACE, and it's research regarding the perception compared to students and employers of proficiency in these career competencies. So I believe this was in 2018 that they completed this, but as you can see, there's a huge discrepancy. So when they were asking employers, when they were polling employers to see what percent employers believe were proficient in these career competency areas of the recent grads that they hired, as you can see, for professionalism, it was close to 43%. And looking at the student perspective, it was close to 90% of students who felt that they are completely fine and proficient in this competency. So our role in career services is to help students realize, these are skills that need to be developed. It's just, it's as simple as sending an email that is professional, writing communications that are professional, being able to critically think in the moment, work collaboratively with a team. So being able to not only define what these mean, but also have students apply them and also realize that these are things that they need to be actively working on in order to be, marketable to these employers. So our goal in career services obviously is to help decrease this gap so it's a little bit more realistic. Ideally, we'd want it to be 89% of employers find recent grads proficient and 89% of students feel they're proficient. So that's kind of our big goal, I suppose. But, this just, I think, helps show the employer need that's out there for these students to help kind of close that gap, and encouraging, again, that defining these things and allowing them to grow these skills in different ways. So that posed a good question for us, because like I mentioned with career services, when we're hosting these different workshops about professionalism and, good communication and teamwork and things like that in these lecture type series, we weren't having there was not a lot of interest from students. So when we were kind of brainstorming, like, how can we be creative with this? It was very timely. So this article came out in 2019, and these slides will be sent out, so you'll have access to the links and things like that. A lot of this is pulled from NACE. So with NACE, there's a lot of free resources that you have access to. You don't need to be a member or anything, and you can access all of that. So this article came out in 2019 using an escape room as gameful training with students. So just to back up to, so gamification. So when I mentioned gameful or gamification, what this is the use of game design elements with non-game game design concepts. I know in the IT world, gamification can be a lot cooler than the career services world. So I know, with us, it's more being able to take these career competencies and have them be these fun game design types of elements. So I know IT gamification can probably be a lot more involved, but gamification in this context is just taking something that's not super fun and making it fun. So the article that we based everything on is through Ball State's experience. So Ball State was seeing a lot of the same things that we were seeing, where they may host a lecture series about workplace problem solving, and maybe one or two students attend, and it's just explaining what it is and those types of things. So they took a really creative approach, and what they decided to do was design an escape room. So anyone that isn't familiar with an escape room is basically a series of puzzles. It's a series of puzzles that small teams work together to solve in order to escape a room. So the escape room is typically like an hour long, and then they work together as a team to get out of this experience. So it's a lot of fun. So they were able to market that as a workplace problem solving escape room. And it's an opportunity where students, actually were able to apply problem solving and teamwork and leadership and all these skills. And they were actually able to apply it in a fun type of setting versus, a lecture type of setting or an apprenticeship or internship. It's kind of like a micro experience where they can apply those skills and see what their role might be in those types of things. So what they noticed, the outcomes were overwhelmingly positive. So students not only attended, but almost 95% felt the activity and discussion about skills were actually a good practice for workplace problem solving. So they actually felt like this fun experience was something that they actually got to apply these skill sets, and agreed, that this was something that was worthwhile to them. So in our department, that really inspired us to want to try this gamification try these gamification types of activities. So some examples of things that we have done as a department. So we've done a ton of escape rooms, in person and virtual, which have been a lot of fun. Definitely it's really fun to come up with kind of like a different plot. So we've had one where we were trying to teach students what career services was. So we did like a zombie themed escape room where students came in and actually like solved different puzzles in our offices that were related to, the different things that we do in career services, which is a lot of fun. And we also have done Shark Tank simulation. So the Shark Tank, I'll go over that a little bit more in a moment. But Shark Tank is if you haven't seen the show, basically people will come with inventions and different products that they want to pitch to these sharks or these investors. And they come and pitch these different things, and the sharks will either kind of reject it or they will fight to invest in these different products with these individuals. So we've taken that and we created kind of a hiring process type of Shark Tank. So it's a great way for students to practice their elevator pitches. So you provide them with a mock job posting, and then you break the students into small teams where they work together to create an elevator pitch and brainstorm skills that they have as a team. So they're pitching their team versus just themselves to hopefully give them that skill of like, how can I look at a job posting and find the skills and pitch who I am. So that's, an example too. When COVID happened, we did a lot of virtual events, and I think we became as a department, came extremely burnt out of doing those panel interviews in Zoom. They were a lot of fun, but also we were like, we can't sit through another panel. So we did a whole game show series, which was a lot of fun. I'll talk about Jeopardy a little more in depth in a moment. Survivor, we did that based on resumes where people actually got voted off of the island, depending on their resumes and like the different pieces that we were looking for. So that was really fun. Family Feud, we did this specifically with humanities faculty, and it was really fun. We actually used our social media to poll students to get the most common answers that they had regarding questions like, what do you think is the most popular humanities degree? What skills do you think are the most important that you gain from a humanities degree? And then we had faculty try and compete with one another to guess what the common answers were. And students were playing along virtually, which was a lot of fun. And it was just like a really fun conversation, but we kind of led with a question and then broke into a panel discussion with that. And then the dating game and Guess the Professional, these are both like great networking types of experiences where you might give the student a job title and then don't tell them who is there, like the names of the individuals, and they have to try and match the job titles to the professional that they're networking with. So that's also kind of a fun one that we have tried as well. So I do want to back up. So again, all of these types of experiences, these are things that we've partnered with student groups on, we've done in classrooms, we've done with student leaders, all those types of things. And we kind of dipped our toe in the water with Gameful Mentorship with our employers with Grant Medical Center. So Grant Medical Center is through Ohio Health. So Ohio Health is one of the larger healthcare systems here in Columbus. And basically we partnered with the medical simulation team through Grant. So if you're not familiar with medical simulation, basically it's exactly what they sound like. They simulate different healthcare experiences and events for healthcare staff. So for example, they might have actors come in and serve as patients, and then the residents get to practice providing, a diagnosis to a patient and have to simulate these different reactions. They may simulate codes, they may simulate all these different things. So it's a really cool medical field that a lot of students don't know about. So they have always been a really wonderful partner to us. And they actually came to us with a need. So they were saying that they had disaster day coming up, and they were looking to get student actors to be paid and participate. So we decided, well, why don't we do collaborate and do an escape room together where we can market this to healthcare students and help them learn about this career path. And we can also partner with our theater department, get you some student volunteer actors, and then you can hire them afterwards. And that's exactly what happened. So we had them, this is right before COVID, so it's so funny to see everybody in PPE, but we had them simulate an airborne toxic event where all these zombies came to life. So we rented out or reserved our theater. So all these different student groups came through and actually went through and had to stop this zombie attack through this escape room experience. So through that experience, the students were, again, a lot of the student actors were hired on, even some of the healthcare students were hired on to be actors as well, which was really, really cool. But it was just a really neat, unique experience for our students. So we had the activity at the end, we talked about medical simulation and how skills like teamwork and leadership and critical thinking apply to medical simulation. So it was like overall a really good experience. So it was just a fun way to engage an employer partner. And it's just a fun opportunity. So if you ever have these employer partners that have needs, there's definitely ways to collaborate and things like that. So that's when so we had kind of dipped our toe in the water. We've had a lot of experience with that. And actually our experiential learning team came to us and they said, with our IT apprenticeship program, there was a need from employers where the employers were saying, hey, we're able to meet your students by paper on resume and then in a 5-minute networking experience. Is there any way that we can start engaging with your students a little bit early on in this apprenticeship experience so we can get to know them versus just learning about them and talking with them for 5 minutes prior to offering them an interview. So that was kind of the ask from our department. And that's where we thought gamification can be an amazing way to engage the employers early on and also give the employers an opportunity to really see our students in action. So, when you're in career services looking at a resume and maybe this student and how wonderful they are and how hardworking they are and smart and all those types of things, but maybe on their resume, they don't have a ton of relevant projects or a ton of relevant internship experience. This is a great way to help those students be able to meet these employers and these hiring managers in a fun experience where they can showcase all those soft skills and career competencies they have, like professionalism, leadership, critical thinking, teamwork, be able to showcase these different things and show how marketable they are. Versus just having this paper impression and this very short interaction with them. So that was when we thought, okay, gamification can be a really good opportunity for this. So we ended up having a 4-part gamification series in autumn semester. So we just concluded it actually, and it had overwhelmingly positive feedback. We have around 75 students participating in the IT apprenticeship program, and we had about 35 to 50 that would actually attend to the events. So a pretty decent turnout for an optional event. So we were pretty surprised by that. And yeah, so we were able to engage our employers early. The students were able to apply these NACE career competencies in the moment. Employers were able to meet them, coach them. And there was always a little bit of competitiveness, when the employers led these different teams, they wanted their teams to win, which was really cool. We trained all the employers to have, for each activity, different NACE career competency discussions after the fact, as well as how to implement these activities as well. The biggest takeaway is students and employers are able to network with each other and have a fun time. So again, it's not this terrifying interview experience where they're super nervous and want to showcase these things. It's a comfortable way for them to showcase their skills, meet the employers, and yeah, have a good time. So this has been, a really positive experience for everybody. So really briefly, I just want to talk through some of the activities that we implemented. So I'm going to talk through 3 of the 4 that we implemented with our IT group. So the first one we did was an escape room. So just an overview of how that looks. We did small groups of students. It ended up being groups of 5 to 7. I think we had 7 mentors for that experience, which was great. So we broke them into small groups with a mentor facilitator, and they had to work together to solve a variety of puzzles. The plot of the escape room that we did was we had a smart car that had been hacked by an unethical hacking group, and they had kidnapped the president of the college. So the students had to work together to stop that from happening and get our wonderful president back to us. So they had to figure out who did it, find the vulnerability, and then prevent the vulnerability from happening again. So that was kind of like the three parts to the experience. And we had the fastest team win. We had grant funding where we were able to actually provide them with pad folios and laptop bags, which was great. So it was a lot of fun. We had a discussion at the end about the NACE career competencies used. And it was just a lot of fun. So the mentors, we had the employer mentors come and serve as room facilitators. Again, we did some training with them to walk through all of the answers to how to implement this, as well as how to facilitate the conversation. Had sent them a whole bunch of materials to be able to facilitate that conversation. So as the mentor, they had all the answers. Similar to a regular mentor, they had all of the answers, but they had to just coach and guide. They didn't just give the answer outright. They had to help people when they were stuck, which is a good metaphor for mentorship. As far as resources, we did this all virtual. We used Google Forms, where we were able to, basically with Google Forms, you can prevent people from moving forward until they get the right answer in the Google quiz. So that's why we used Google Forms. We did it in Zoom. You're more than welcome to do it in person if we ever reach that point again. We used a site called Canva to create all of our puzzles and make it look nice. It's Canva's free software for kind of like graphic design. So that was what we used to put the images into the document. We collaborated with our faculty and our employer partners as well, to have half of the questions be from career services, just these basic type of questions. And then also based on faculty and employee input, we had technical questions. We collaborated very heavily with a cybersecurity faculty to get things that the students are actually doing in class and have them apply it to this experience, which was great. So we had things from class turn into puzzles that they actually had just learned about, which was great. And the last resource we did was a cheat sheet for mentors as well. So they had all of the answers in case they got stuck. So as far as like how this looks, so this is a couple screenshots from the Google form. So as you can see, like on the left-hand side, this was an example of a career services puzzle that anybody could solve, but it was a maze. The students had to go through and find a 10-digit code and then input it into there. And then an example of a classroom-oriented faculty influence puzzle. The students had just learned about the National Vulnerability Database. So they actually had to go and find the vulnerability and actually put the like the specific code that they had pulled. So again, we had a student that was like, hey, I just did this in class. And I was like, that's so wonderful that you said that. So glad that you realized. But this was a lot of fun, and it was a good way to engage, again, like connect with faculty, connect with employers, and connect with our department. And it was just something fun that the employers had a good time with and the students had a good time with as well. So the next activity I want to provide an overview of is that Shark Tank activity. So basically how we operated, it was basically students were split into small groups. Usually when we run this, we have a student group that's an HR team and then applicants. So small groups of applicants that work together to create an elevator pitch. For the apprenticeship experience, we had all of the student groups just create elevator pitches together as a team. And then we had the career services staff actually be the HR team to pick the winner. But we had mentors coach the students with creating an elevator pitch. So they had to work as a team to find all of the relevant skills based on the job posting they received. They had to collaborate and think of examples. The mentor guided that conversation. And we actually got a lot of like just anecdotal positive feedback from employers that they said that that was a really rewarding experience where they were able to help students see their value. So some of the students that felt really stuck and didn't want to share, they felt like very excited to be able to work with that student and help them and coach them to say like, hey, just because you don't have like these specific projects doesn't mean you don't have anything to contribute. So that was a lot of feedback, was like, it was a very rewarding experience for the employer. So we were really happy about that. So as far as the mentor role, like I mentioned, they're paired with each group and they help coach and guide that elevator pitch experience. The alternative is that you could have the mentor serve as the HR committee, but I would definitely recommend having them help coach that elevator pitch that gets pitched to the hiring committee or the Sharks to, whatever it is. But the HR committee picks a winner and then they get, a prize of some kind. So the resources, again, very budget friendly. We did PowerPoint, Zoom breakouts. You could do this in the classroom. And we created some brainstorming handouts and like a mock job posting that was basically the apprenticeship posting. We had them look at it and actually pick out skills, think of examples that they have and that their team has. So they made, again, like a group elevator pitch. So it took that pressure off of, I have to pitch myself solely, which is kind of fun. So as far as like how this looks, so this is pulled directly from the job posting. So this is, again, the direction. So as a group, they work together to brainstorm, really create a resume that's relevant to the job posting. Once their brainstorm is complete, they have 45 seconds to, they pick a representative to pitch their elevator pitch to the hiring committee. The hiring committee will ask 1 to 2 questions that anyone in the group can answer. And then the hiring committee decides who that winning team is. And then as far as activity, so here's the brainstorm. So an example of what the brainstorm can look like pulling the skills out and then having the student think of what skills specifically they have and work experience or project experience specific examples is what we kind of had them do. If you have a student-led group, serve as the hiring committee. This was a sample worksheet that we had where they have to actually think about, who do I want to hire? Why do I want to hire them? What questions do we want to follow up with? And then we have kind of this rating system as well that they look at and collaborate with too. And this can also go to your mentors or, whoever is reviewing that. This is an example of some of the processing questions that we kind of go through to process those skills, process the hiring process, those types of different things as well. Again, you'll receive these slides so you have it. And then the last activity I just want to cover before kind of wrapping up is we did technical interview Jeopardy. So this was something that we wanted to sneak in there as our last activity with the students. Basically, we were getting feedback from the employers that students did really well with kind of the common interview questions, like tell me about yourself, those types of things. But the technical interview questions, they would get very anxious on. So that's where we wanted to implement or include this in Jeopardy. So it became technical interview Jeopardy, where those whiteboard types of questions, where students are asked these whiteboard types of questions where they have to problem solve on the spot. We had them work in small teams together. So basically we had the students break into small teams. So then they're working together to solve technical interview questions. So we broke them into different breakout rooms. The mentor served as like the host, or the Alex Trebek, or whoever the host is now, where he or she was asking the questions. The teams had opportunities to work together to solve them. And if they got really stuck, the mentor would step in and coach them on how to answer it, those types of things. We had the highest teams receive prizes, which was a lot of fun. So again, the mentor role, they are a room facilitator and Jeopardy host. As far as resources, we just did PowerPoint. There's tons of free ones out there. We did this in Zoom, and we partnered with faculty and then with our employer partners to actually get realistic technical questions that they might see. So then it's, again, they get that insider information, they get to practice those types of questions, and hopefully when they get to the interview experience, they're not going to panic because they've seen them before and know how to solve them. And then as far as like how it can potentially look, so this is just a screenshot, use big O notation to describe quick sort. So this was something in career services, I have no idea what that means, but for the students, they were able to break that down. But again, there's tons of like free templates that are out there and all that kind of stuff too. But yeah, so that's just kind of my breakdown with everything. And yeah, so I just want to conclude here and just open it up for any questions or comments or anything you might have. And yeah, biggest takeaway, I hope you just have some ideas, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn too.
So thank you, Taylor. We appreciate it. Everyone have a good afternoon.